Hello and welcome to Taiwan Today. I'm Natalie Tso. In the studio, I have with me David Hall, the founder of the business coaching company USBCT. David is helping professionals in Taiwan develop a 21st century global mindset. And David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
And it's exciting what you're doing here. Tell us about this global mindset. What is it that you're trying to help people in Taiwan develop?
Well, as we've seen on the news, with a lot of the trade agreements that are being talked about, TPP and new trade agreements between Taiwan and Singapore, New Zealand, the new One Belt, One Road organization. So a lot of things happening globally, and Taiwan is at what I like to call an inflection point, where things are not only changing faster, but they're changing faster and faster. The world is not only becoming flatter, but it's becoming flatter and flatter. There's a lot of opportunity right now for Taiwan to not only become a hub of East Asia, but also a bridge to the rest of the world.
So why do you think Taiwan has this potential? I know a lot of people feel a little bit frustrated with low wages, stagnant wages, or China's rise and Korea's, free trade agreements. I mean, people are afraid of Taiwan being marginalized. So what do you see in Taiwan's potential in terms of you saying we can be a hub of East Asia? Why do you think that way?
Well, if you look at the Asian miracle that has occurred here in Taiwan, consistently one of the top 20 economies in the world, number 17, consistently in the top 20 of livable places, places that people want to travel. And so there's a lot of opportunity here in Taiwan. The skill set is here, but the thing is, there's a book recently I read, it's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I was at the recent ATD conference, which is the Training and Development Conference, the Asia Pacific ATD conference that was hosted here in Taipei. The author of that book, Marshall Goldsmith, had a chance to talk to him. And this is about executive coaching, but I think you can apply it to Taiwan. It's been an Asian miracle. So people think, well, if we just do what we've done, it will work. But what I say is, what got you here will not get you there.
So what is it that you see in Taiwan's workforce? What are you trying to help them develop in terms of this competitive edge in this new global age?
Well, the economy now is roughly, as everyone knows, is roughly 70% service economy, about 30% manufacturing. But of that 30% manufacturing, most of that are products made for other companies, such as Apple, iPhone, and things of that nature. Now Taiwan is at a point where they're going to begin developing their own products, their own services, branding those, and marketing and selling those to a global economy, B2C. So they really need to understand customer needs. And not only that, but global multicultural customer needs, which they've never had to do before. Very hard workers, very creative, but they've just never had to do this before.
So how can they be successful on the world stage if they're, now coming in touch with the global customers and competitors as well?
Well, I'd say, in order to not be left behind, that, Taiwan needs to change its mindset, needs to get training and upgrade skills in soft skill areas such as cross-cultural communications. To give you an example, a couple of months ago, the former U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke was in Taiwan. And, this world leader, of all the things that he could have chosen to talk about, he highlighted training and development and highlighted the need for Taiwanese companies and Taiwanese employees to invest more in lifelong learning and upgrading soft skills, global 21st century skills. So this is something that is really needed now here in Taiwan.
So, having worked with the Taiwan workforce, what do you think are our strengths and weaknesses?
As I say, diligence and perseverance and determination, sheer willpower has gotten Taiwan to the top. People work late. They work very hard. You can see people on the subways tired when they're going home at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So hard work is in there, ingrained in the culture. But now we need more. We need to work smarter. We need to be innovative. We need to be creative, and we need to be more global.
So, what can get someone, let's say, just a regular employee, from just being a diligent worker to being, a global talent?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think they need to do for themselves as individuals to get to that level of being more globalized and upgrading their own competitiveness?
Well, Loyola University did a study on the training market here in Taiwan a couple of years ago, and it was a study on the demand for intensive non-MBA type training here in Taiwan. And what they found out is the budgets for training per employee was just about $300 per employee, where in the West it's about $3,000.
Really? Wow.
So there is a lot of money available that's not being used. The Department of Labor has training funds available, and HR directors and training directors tell me they have funds available for employees if they want to use it, but maybe employees are not aware of it, or they just simply don't ask to access those funds. I know that Department of Labor is also going to make funds available for employees here in Taiwan, potentially that have been furloughed, and so that they have access to training funds. So that money is available, but companies are not requesting it from the government.
So companies or individuals can actually request money for training.
Yeah, there's a lot of training money available that's not being used. So we need to use the money that's available, but we need even more money to get up to the level, the global standard, which is 10 times higher. So people need to be using the money that's available, accessing the grants that are there and going to their HR, going to their training directors and VPs and say, hey, we want this training, or can I access these funds to use outside of the company? Because those monies are available.
Mm. And what global skill sets would you advise people to go after if they do have the opportunity for training and learning? What would you suggest is the most important?
Well, a lot of right now, what we call the 21st century skills are multicultural collaboration, learning how to manage different cultures, learning how to manage maybe different cultures and even virtual teams. So the level of complexity keeps increasing. Critical reasoning, thinking skills, innovative skills, creative skills. These are all the new types of soft skills that are needed. You need to make yourself what Seth Godin calls the linchpin employee, that employee that is indispensable. So you need to become what's called a creative artist in your position.
So what about some advice from you for individuals? How can people become more creative? What if they don't have a company that's willing to spend money on them, but they want to be that person that you're talking about, that key person that really takes their team to a different level? What can they do personally?
Well, I believe, I'm a huge believer in lifelong learning. I download more books than I can possibly read. I sign up for more MOOC mass online courses than I can possibly take. I believe it's about, you got to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. You know, you've got to go to events. You've got to sign up for online free courses. You've got to ask your HR for training. Download books. You know, if you read just 30 minutes a day, that equals about 30 or 40 books in a year, just 30 minutes a day. Now, if you go for a job or you go for a promotion, who do you think they're going to hire? You read 30 minutes a day, about 40 business books in a year, and your colleague or your competition read 0, you know, who's going to have the advantage?
That makes sense. What about personal innovation and creativity? Do you think there's a key to helping, let's say on a management level, helping your team be more innovative?
Well, I think, you know, it's changing your mindset. You need to look at the problem differently. I like to give the example, fun example of the Japanese hot dog eating champion. You know,
I didn't know there was such a person.
Yeah, there's actually, yeah, it's kind of disgusting, but it makes a good example, something that you remember. And, you know, he wanted to break his record for eating hot dogs. So, you know, he looked at the situation and he said to himself, you know, he reframed the how question and said, not how can I eat more hot dogs, but how can I make hot dogs easier to eat? So, I mean, I apply that to everything. I take what's called a how question, I look at the problem differently and I reframe it. So I say, you know, not how can I do more, how can I make this easier to do? Or not how can I get more customers, how can I make customers want to buy my product?
So actually it's being very dynamic in your thinking, right? And it seems that Asian culture or Asian education is a lot more rigid, which doesn't really develop that from childhood. Do you agree with that? Or? Oh,
absolutely. I was a university professor in China for several years, and that was one of the biggest things that MBA students and graduate students and undergrads that I taught asked me, you know, how can I be more creative? And, you know, as I mentioned, it's just do more. I taught creative writing courses, and I've taught courses in creativity, and we do different types of journals. We do things that stimulate your mind, that get the neurons firing, and reframing the how question and looking at things differently than you have seen them in the past. So you need to experiment a little bit. You need to become a tinkerer, as we call it in the U.S., you know, where you kind of tinker and try things different ways. Maybe keeping a journal. Maybe when you go out, if you're photographing things or you're sketching things. I do you know, I keep words that come to my mind, and I write poetry with them. Some people do dream journals. I mean, there's hundreds of ways to develop creativity, and it's just about a lot of activity and trying a lot of different things.
Sounds like life is a lot more fun that way too, right?
It is actually. You're in the moment at all times. When you go out into nature, you go out into the city, you want to look at things differently, and you want to see it differently than you've ever seen it before. And it does make it a lot more fun. You're right.
That's great. Well, I've been talking with David Hall, the founder of the business coaching company USBCT. Join us for the next episode as I talk with David about design thinking and startups. Thanks for tuning in to Taiwan Today.